All right, so on this retrofit window job, the homeowner wanted to go really cheap on the outside trim because he wasn't sure what he was going to do about the siding and stuff yet. So he wanted to go really cheap on the trim, so that way it doesn't matter later. We could just pop it out and replace it with whatever siding is going to go up. So that's just some Doug fir stud. And again, he just wants us to cheap caulk and paint it. So that's the retrofit window. On the lower, on the upper, we did mill guard. On these lowers, we did the Pella. Anytime you have, it's either 12 inches or 2 feet. Anytime there's other windows next to these sliders, and I can't remember the exact number. It's either 12 inches or 2 feet. Then these right next to it need to be tempered no matter what. Keep that in mind. And then over here on the inside, of course, they sit there all the time and they look at it because it's in the front room, right? On the upper, up here where the mill guard windows are. They chose nicer trim for the inside, which is oak, I believe you picked. So we're pre-staining down here. That's what Aaron's doing. He's pre-staining this stuff. We're trying to twice coat it before we install it, and then we can do touch-up wherever we cut it. And we're retrimming that because on the upper, on the inside, the windows weren't as deep as the old windows, because the ones that came out of these 4 holes here were actually not aluminum. It was the sliders. There was an aluminum slider, and then there was 2 other aluminum windows that we took out, right? They were broken, damaged. They were sweating real bad anyways. Same thing with the door. They didn't like the way that it sweat. But the other ones were actually made by the homeowner, and he took these recycled glass panes and he had them like double paned. You know, and for use back in the day, that was fine, but now with all these energy efficiency codes and everything, it was just time to do better windows. I'm just now starting to mess with these Pella windows. That's like just a low special, I think. So I don't have any opinion, you know, good or bad for the price point yet. I know Milgard makes some pretty good windows. If you want to go really high end, you're probably going to use Anderson windows. Maybe there's a couple other companies. But for the price point, I think a lot of homeowners are just doing these. They're widely available, you know. I think this brand is Lowe's. Home Depot would probably have their preferred brand that they mass sell. We caulked them as we went in. We did our tape on the bottom sill, you know, our flex tape. When you retrofit a window, you set your saw at the depth of the siding that you're cutting through. In this case, this stuff is lap, but it's like almost dimensional. So it's like 1.25 inches. I had to set my saw to like 1.75 inches deep. And what we do is usually on the removal of the window, we'll run our small side right against the window of our saw, right? Because you usually have on most circular saws like this right here. This side's 1.5 inches. The other side's 3.5 inches on your table, right? So I'll take the 1.5 inch side and I'll run it all the way around my opening, and that's going to release the flange up there, right? And most flanges are going to be about that big, you know, give or take. And so that's all you're doing is you're running your 1.5 inch side along the side of that, and then you're releasing that flange, and you're giving yourself some action and adjustments later before you cut your full dimension size for your trim, right? So you go through, you run your saw all the way around it, pop that stuff out, you know, use a buzz saw in your corners if you need to do them halfway clean so you're not breaking, damaging boards on their way out. And then you'll see the flange, and you can pull nails, and then you can yank the old window out. And then I clean the holes, and then you can see up there we have flex tape down right there. So I always do the pan flashing on the inside, and then what we'll do after that is we'll tape all the way around the windows, sides, top. And sometimes with these retrofits, you just have to make do, right? Like I can't slip new paper or nothing in there. That just is what it is. but we do the best we can, and we you know, give it a seal, and then wrap the sides and then the top. And then once you set your new window, so right here we do the seal, and then we caulk the side and the top and the side, right? And then we set the window. And usually what we'll do is we'll set it temporarily with 4 screws each corner. So we'll shim the bottom where we want it, and then screw it, and then we'll rack the top over to where it's square, plumb, and level, right? And then we'll tack it, and then we'll triple check everything and make it any adjustments we need to. If we like it, then we're gonna nail every other hole. And I use 2-inch galvanized roofing nails is what I use, because they have the wide head on them. And I know a lot of window companies actually use like aluminum, I believe. I don't know why that is. Maybe they're cheaper for them since they use them all the time. You know, it's galvanized nail. They're probably significantly cutting costs by using aluminum. But that's what we do. And then once the window's installed, now we can take our 3.5-inch side in this case, because we're using 3.5-inch wide trim, and we can run that all the way around the window. Stop a little bit short of your corner so you're not overcutting. You know, again, plunge in nicely with your buzzsaw. And now that's ready to wrap. In this case, I'm missing the tape. So before I wrap this with trim, I'm gonna tape the 2 sides and then the top, and I'm gonna make sure it overlaps, right? And then that way it has the sill, and if anything ever does get under there, it'll still come out, right? Optimally, on a new construction house, that would be papered, and that would roll up over the paper. On these older retrofits, again, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. I can't take apart the whole wall when he's just trying to reinstall the window, right? So those are some things to consider when you're retrofitting windows, and that's gonna work for most windows. And that's pretty much the brief rundown. Again, up here we got the mill guards, right? And then around the corner, I believe that one's actually a mill guard too, it's just a different color. And on this job, the customer ordered the windows, so it's whatever windows he wanted to order. Right? So that's gonna be the same thing. And on that one, you can actually see, we haven't ran a saw around anything yet, right? So you can actually see that that's the 1.5 inch cut all the way around, just enough to get the old flange out, and just enough to get the new one in, right? There you go. There's your brief rundown on retrofit window installs, right? And again, this is an old farm construction or farmhouse that the homeowner, he built this house himself, I'm pretty sure, like way back in the day. And the area of the town that we're in, this is the old farmlands from the city that I'm actually from. Well, lived most of my life, right? So this is out in like the farming district. These are the old farmhouses, and a lot of these houses out here were built by the homeowner, you know. And sometimes in that situation, things were built a little bit differently than they are now, so you just have to make do. We had to alter these holes a little bit because they were weird sizes, so we had to make some framing adjustments, because these weren't true like 4050 windows or whatever, right? They were just whatever size they were able to cut out of that piece of glass, right, to recycle it. So those ones required adjustments. These ones were standard size windows, except for this aluminum door was a little bit bigger than what a regular door comes at for these vinyl windows. So we had to bring the header down 1 inch, I think, in order to be able to screw or nail our flange. But that's our rundown on retrofit windows. You guys have a good one.